Hello guys, and today we'll take a look at the new tanks from boxes, also the 3D attachments and some changes on the Cliff and Secret Line map. If you want to watch specific thing, you can skip in the chapters. And now we are starting with the tanks that are supposed to be in the loot boxes. So we already knew about those 3 tanks. So this is the Czech light tank, the British heavy tank and the Chinese medium tank from the tier 9. But we also knew now that there will be American tier 8 tank destroyer, which is the MX57. This tank here. And now we know also about the Italian heavy tank, which is the Toro. As you can see, this is how this tank will look like. There is also a list of tier 5 and lower premium tanks that will be in the boxes, but those aren't that important to us. And now let's take a look at the first tank, which is the tier 8 American tank destroyer. First thing that we can see is the alpha damage. 630 alpha damage on the tank destroyer, so definitely a high alpha damage with 270 millimeters of penetration, 350 millimeters on gold, and also the HE shells have 900 damage with 90 millimeters of penetration. So the gun is very impressive with that damage. But of course you pay for that with the reload time of over 18 seconds. The aiming speed is even worse because we have over 3 seconds of aiming time. The dispersion is also horrible because it's 0.43 on 100 meters. So with the tank you will not be able to hit anything almost at medium and long range. The stabilization while moving is even worse, and with that this tank's gun will handle horribly. Even though you have 630 alpha damage, this dispersion will make this tank play like pain. Mobility is another bad thing about this tank. We are going 24 kilometers forward and 12 backwards. The power to weight ratio for this speed is okay, so we will be going this 24 kilometers an hour, but 24 kilometers isn't what you want to go forward. This tank will also turn slowly, so it will be even worse by the mobility. We have 7 gun depression, so it's okay, but as you can see here, the turret isn't fully rotatable. And this tank armor should be good, as we can see here, but we will go into the free more in a second. The HP of this tank is 1300, so it's pretty bad for a close combat tank. The camo values are good, but you will not snipe with this vehicle. And now let's take a look at the armor, which isn't that great. So the whole armor will be penetrable by almost all tier 8 tanks. And even the turret, so behind the turret I think, is pretty easily penable with 240 millimeters, so not many tanks will be able to pen it on the standard shells, but on gold definitely. We have also a cupola, but it's pretty small, so we will probably be able to hide it. And only if we use our gun depression, this tank's armor is looking okay. Yes, maybe whole armor is still bad, but of course we can hide it. Unfortunately, under the turret, if you have high penetration, you will be able to pen this tank. And there is no reason to angle with this also. With everything taken into account, this tank is looking absolutely terrible. I do not recommend to get this one. Even though you have 630 alpha damage, this is the only thing that is good about this tank. And now for the Toro, which is Italian auto reloader. So we have 4 shells and each will deal 360 damage. The penetration is okay on the tier 9s. We have 248 millimeters on APCR shells, which are the standard shells, 315 millimeters of penetration on the hits, and 105 millimeters of penetration on the HE shells, so you will definitely want to take some. Although the DPM is only 1900, which isn't ideal on the tier 9, we have a magazine, so we can make up for it. The reload time of the shells is accordingly 17 seconds, 15 seconds, 13 seconds and 11.5 seconds. And with that it's like a normal Italian auto reload tank. The interclip reload time is 3 seconds, so we deal 1440 damage in 9 seconds, which is okay value. Aiming time is pretty good, of 2.4 seconds. And the dispersion is even better because we have 0.34 on 100 meters. For a heavy tank it is pretty good. Biggest downside of the gun are the moving dispersion values, because 0.025 on both moving and tank traverse is pretty bad, and the 0.12 on turret traverse isn't great either. The gun caliber is 105 millimeters. We have 60 shots, so more than enough to take into the battle. The mobility of this tank is pretty good because we are going 40 kilometers forward and 18 kilometers backwards. The power to weight ratio is more than 15, so it will be more than enough to achieve those speeds. Turning speed is okay, and we have 8 degrees of gun depression, which is also good. Unfortunately, we have only 1700 HP, and the armor isn't that good, which we will take a look at the second. We have 390 view range, so it's okay value. We don't need full view range anyway. Now for the hull armor. So as we can see here, the hull armor isn't that great. If you're fighting forward the enemy, they will be able to pen you easily, unless they shoot a little less to the hull, so around here, because then anyone will bounce. And some people may not know this because, as we can see here, it's hidden by the 3D model. The turret armor is pretty good, but unfortunately we have a huge cupola that will be easily penetratable by the enemies, unless of course we use our gun depression. And even though we have a turret at the back, as you can see, we have 8 degrees, and with that we will be a pretty good hull down tank. Unfortunately, if the enemies will know, they can pen us under the tracks. So if you are shooting him around here, you will be able to pen him. But further than that, this tank looks pretty good for now. You can't really angle because you have side chicks here, and you will not be able to do much against them. So with all of that taken into account, TORO looks definitely like a pleasant tank to have. The armor is pretty good, although you can't really angle, you have to use your gun depression, but if you do, you will be pretty well armored. The next thing being tested on the test server are the 3D attachments. So as we can see here, you will be able to attach some of the elements into your tanks. We can read here that not for all tanks, but probably many tanks will be able to use them. And there are many different here, as you can see, 5 different for starters. As we can see here, we can place it on any tank we like and almost anywhere. This will be definitely an interesting change coming to the game. We will see how this will go, but I don't think that it will be that important. Maybe for some people who want to customize their tanks as much as possible, but for normal players, nothing really will change. And for the last news of today, we have 2 new maps with random events, and it will be the cliff and secret line. On the cliff, as we can read here, the plane will crash into the lighthouse. So somewhere over here, the plane will crash, and similar to Malinovka, the debris will fall, and you will be able to play more on this map. And on the secret line, there will be 2 random events. So the plane will crash in the square, so somewhere here on the middle, I think, and the artillery barrage, so it will open up the city a bit, so definitely a nice change to come. This year there will be also an advent calendar, so definitely a nice thing returning to the game. So this is all for today. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed it, you can like the video, and see you next time.